Welcome to this tutorial video for iFOIA. This is for the new and improved version of iFOIA that just recently launched. So if you're just new to iFOIA, this video should help you, or if you've already been using iFOIA and you're interested in some of the new features, this video is for you as well. So I'm going to walk you through the basic process of creating a request, and we're going to talk about some of the new features along the way, and then after we do the basic request, we'll dive into some of the more advanced features. So to use iFOIA, you have to have an account. If you don't have an account already, you can register for one. It's free. All you need is an email address. Just click Create Account. Once you have an account, log in, and the first thing you're going to do is name your request. iFOIA separates requests into different projects. So the idea is if you have multiple requests to different agencies or even the same agency, you can group them all by project. So we're going to call this request just request 1, and we're going to create a new project for it. We're going to call it project 1. Next, you need to input all of your information so the agency knows how to contact you. Once you put in that information once, iFOIA will remember it, so you don't have to put it in again. So all of my information is already in here. On this next screen, we're going to choose where the request is going to. The first basic choice here is whether it's a federal or a state entity. You can also do local entities. Those fall under the category of state requests. We're going to do a federal request just for the purpose of this demo. You can see here we have all the kind of top-level departments and agencies for the federal government. Once you select a top-level agency, the iFOIA will populate with all the sub offices that you may want to submit the request to. And then it will fill out the information that we have about that agency. It's always a good idea to double check this information and make sure it's accurate. I'm going to rig this for the purposes of this demonstration just so it goes to my own email. One of the new things about iFOIA that we've made available is the ability to send requests via fax. A lot of federal agencies don't have email requests anymore. So if your agency has a fax number, you can put that in here and send the request via fax. So again, I'm going to rig this with my own fax number just for the purposes of this demonstration. On this screen, you can see we have a couple different options. You can follow the step-by-step wizard for people who are just kind of starting out with requests. If you have your own request and you just want to upload it and use iFOIA to send it, you can do that as well. Or we've included a text editor. You can type your own request in iFOIA from scratch. I'm going to do the standard letter generator here. So this screen is where you input the text of exactly what you're after, description of the records, as it's going to appear in the letter. You want to be as specific here as possible. The more detail you can provide in terms of what you're after is generally a good idea. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to put in records, but obviously you should be more specific than this. You can also put in the format that you want the records in. This is, for example, if you want them in electronic format versus paper. Probably most people do want that these days because no one wants to scan in paper records. So I'm going to put in electronic format. All right, this next screen has to do with fees. So for public records requests, whether it's state or federal, oftentimes there may be fees associated with it. We have this option here to say, up front, you're willing to pay up to a certain amount to have your request processed. A lot of agencies like to have that information. Next, we have our new and improved fee categorization screen. So if you're a member of the news media, if you're an educational requester, or commercial or other, there are different types of information that are needed. So if you're a member of the news media, you put in your organization, and then a little bit about what your organization does and how it distributes its content. Again, you should probably be more specific, but just for the purposes of this demonstration. You can also request a fee waiver by checking this box here. This is if you're basically asking for the government to not charge you any fees. You do have to show and explain why the information you're requesting is in the public interest and how it will contribute to public understanding of what the government does. So I'm just going to put in some test language there. Again, you should be much more specific than this. For federal requests, we also have the option to request expedited processing. If you're a journalist or a member of the news media, probably option A is going to be most applicable to you. Again, there's some information you need to fill in here. Basically, you have to demonstrate why it's particularly urgent for the public to get these records. There are some other options that may be applicable as well. I'm not going to select that just for the purposes of this demo. If you have letterhead, you can upload it here. And that's about it. Now your request is ready to send. You can see we have different options. Now you can send by email, which is probably the best if the agency accepts it via email. That's preferable. But you can also send the request via fax now. You just click this button and iFOIA will ship it off to a fax processing service, and it will fax it all over to the agency. If you want to print it out and mail it, you can also click send offline, or if you want to send it in some other way. We're going to send it by email. So you can see all this information is already filled in. We have the text of the request is attached here. You can edit the subject or the kind of cover email as you want, and then just click send. So the next thing that's going to pop up is this reminder screen. So this is specific to different agencies. iFOIA knows what jurisdiction you submitted the request to, and it will tell you how long that federal agencies or state agencies have to respond to your request. So because we're submitted a federal request, they have 20 business days to do it. So you can calendar that here. If you check this box, iFOIA will send you a reminder that on that day via email that if you haven't received a response to your request, that you should follow up with the agency. You can also add this request to your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar. This is a new feature, so you can kind of keep independent track of where all of your requests are. So I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to ask it to send me an email reminder, and I'm going to save that. So now you can see this is basically the screen that manages the communications related to this request. You can see this records the time and date that we sent it. It has all this here. And you can take various actions from here. And this is where also communications from the agency will come in. You'll see them all lined up here once that happens. So that's the basic process of creating a request. Okay, so we're back on the screen showing my request and all of the communications related to it. We can see that we've actually gotten an acknowledgement and response from the public agency with a tracking number. So one of the cool things that iFOIA now does is it includes the ability to record this tracking number and include it on your future communications with the agency automatically. So when you get the tracking number, you can copy it and paste it into this field here that says tracking number. And that way when you follow up with the agency, either to request a status update or to do an administrative appeal, the agency will know exactly what request you're talking about. So say it has been a little while since I submitted this request and I want to kind of figure out what its status is. From this drop-down menu here, I can click Request Status Update. And what iFOIA does is it generates this cool automatic email. It's to the FOIA officer. Again, this is jury-rigged with my email address. You can attach past communications to the agency if you want here. And it basically says, includes information when your request was updated, the tracking number that you inputted into the system. iFOIA will also automatically calculate the number of business days and calendar days it's been since your request was submitted. We just submitted this request, so it hasn't been any calendar days yet, but this will automatically calculate. And this is really easy. It's kind of, you can change the text if you want, but otherwise you can just leave it as is, and then you can just submit this request for a status update. And then again, it will prompt you to set another reminder if you haven't, received anything. You can follow up with the agency again. Again, you can add this to your Google Calendar or iCal as you like. I'm not going to create a reminder here. So we're back at the screen that has all of the communications related to our request. And you can see we actually have had a new communication from the agency. They've denied our request under the deliberative process privilege. So what I want to do is file an administrative appeal. So from the follow-up menu, click Create an Appeal. Again, fill out all of your information. If you've done it once, it should be automatically populated there. And then we're going to fill out the agency information for the administrative appeal. It's important that you fill this out based on the information either in the denial letter or information that you find about the agency's appeals office online. Usually this is a different office from where the initial request is sent. So I'm going to fill this in quickly. Again, you have an option to either use the step-by-step wizard that iFOIA has, or if you want to upload your own letter or write your own letter from scratch, you can also just do that from one of these other options. Okay, so we're doing the wizard. So enter the date your request was submitted. And then you enter what your request was for. If you used iFOIA to submit the original request, it will automatically pull this information in, or you can type it in yourself. If the agency denied your request effectively because it did not comply with a statutory time limit, you can select this checkbox, and that has different language in the appeal letter. Otherwise, because here the agency actually denied our request, we're going to click No. And then in this box here, this is where you submit all of your language, arguments, etc. for the administrative appeal, setting forth why you think the agency's decision was wrong. So I'm going to type in just some brief demo language here. Again, most appeals are going to be much more detailed than that. Here we're going to put in the date that our request was denied. You can upload letterhead again if you want. And then that's it. Your appeal is ready to send. Most federal administrative appeals have to be sent via mail, in which case you can click Send Offline. But if your request can be sent via email, you can put that in here. Also, if you had inputted fax information at the beginning, you could fax your administrative appeal as well. Again, you can preview what the letter or edit it as necessary. I'm going to send it offline. You can see that it attaches information and the administrative appeal, and then I'm going to hit Save. And then you can see that the appeal is added to the list of communications relevant to this request. I'm going to show you all some of the advanced sorting and tracking and organizational features of iFOIA. So again, we're at the screen here that records all the communications related to a particular request. I want to show you a couple different things. So one is this little star up here. This allows you to bookmark requests. These are maybe your most frequently accessed requests or ones that you're currently working on. And you'll see if you bookmark it, it basically allows you to more quickly access it from all of your different requests. You can also change the status of your request here, right? So maybe the request is completed, you've done everything about it, hopefully you got all of the records that you asked for, you can mark it as completed there. There are a couple different actions here. Again, you can resend the request if you need to for some reason. You can follow up. We talked about this previously. You can add in the tracking number. You should absolutely do this if you get a tracking number. You can add in reminders. Here's the reminder that I created when the request was first sent, but I can add in other reminders if I want. I can set them for whenever, I can include whatever notes I want. Again, I can have iFOIA email me a reminder on that day, and I can also add this reminder to my Google Calendar or Apple Calendar. Another feature that we've actually improved is the collaboration feature. So if you want to work on the public records request with a teammate or perhaps a number of teammates, you can do that here. So you can either add the email of another iFOIA user and share it with them, or you can share it with an entire team, which I'll go into a second. So here I have an investigations team. If I want, I can share it with everyone who is part of that team. And then they'll have access to all of the communications related to this request. You can also add notes if you like. Maybe you talk to a public records officer on the phone and you want to memorialize that in some way. You can enter notes right here and save it right alongside your request. So let's look into how the requests are organized. So if you click the Request tab up here, you'll see that actually this request, which I bookmarked, pops right up. This is just a handy way to more quickly access your most frequent requests. You can also look at drafts of requests that you started but haven't submitted yet. You can submit or organize them in a whole bunch of different ways. You can now sort them by government agency, or the last updated, or the status. You can also delete them, share them, or bookmark them right from this screen. And that's the same with pending requests, which are requests that you have submitted already. You can see all of them here. Again, you can sort them by office, project, when it was last sent, when it was last updated. You can share them and bookmark them right from this screen. Then we also have tabs for completed requests and all requests. Next to the Request tab, we also have the Projects tab, which is again the same basic layout as the request. You can bookmark projects, and then you can have either open projects or archived projects. From the calendar, you can see we have various requests reminders that I've put in here. But you can also add new events or reminders from this screen, and you can kind of download them and see them all here. Again, you can see any of the reminders that you want, add it to your own Google Calendar if you want, or modify or create new reminders.